What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Knights of Horror, and we are back in the studio. I know last video, Stranger Things video, we were out of the studio, but we're back. Got the awesome background. Today's video, we're talking about my all-time favorite horror movie as of late. Trying to crack the code of this movie, just can't. But today we are talking about The Shining. Without further ado, let's get this video started.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not locked in here with you.
You're locked in here with me!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Anthony from the Knights of Horror, and today I have written a list of things I want to talk about with the movie The Shining. If you've never seen Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, you are missing out because that is one of the greatest horror movies of all time. And if you read the book by Stephen King, you're going to notice there's a lot of things different from Stanley Kubrick's version. Mainly because Stanley Kubrick was not a fan of Stephen King's book, and Stephen King was not a fan of Stanley Kubrick's film. That's fact number one for you. Now today we're going to be covering three things on the topic of The Shining. We're going to cover the plot, we're going to cover the fan theories, and we're going to cover unanswered questions. So let's get started with the plot. Now, we all know that, at least if you've seen The Shining, we know that it's about a main character named Jack Torrance who agrees to look after the Overlook Hotel for the winter. Now, we learn that early on in the movie that this hotel has a twisted past. We learn that someone was murdered, or multiple people were murdered in this hotel by the last caretaker, murdered him brutally with an axe. So we learn pretty early on that this hotel is already going to be kind of twisted. But, you know, Jack does not care, and he just kind of wants to do his thing. He figures that this is a way for him to get some peace and quiet to write his new book. He had just left the profession of being a teacher, so now he's going on to write a book and such stuff like that. We learned that, yeah, this ain't the first case of murders, though. We learned that a lot of people have died there. We also learned that as the movie progresses, you start seeing Jack's son, Danny. Now, Danny is what's known to shine, which is why the movie is called The Shining. When you shine, it's kind of like you're telepathic. You can see stuff. Danny knew that his dad gets the job when he talks to his imaginary friend Tony, which Tony, when I started watching this more and more, is like the shine kind of. Tony is what tells Danny what's going to happen. Early on in the movie, Danny is in the bathroom brushing his teeth, and he's talking to his imaginary friend Tony, asking him, "You think my dad got the job?" And Tony responds to Danny saying, "Your dad already got the job, he's going to call in a bit." Then we cut to a shot where Wendy is in the kitchen, then all of a sudden the phone rings, and it's Jack telling her that he got the job, and that they're going to be staying at the Overlook Hotel. That's number one of Danny's shine. Then throughout the movie, we cut to some images. We see an elevator open, which is one of the infamous scenes of the film, and blood just spurring out. We also see Danny kind of like scream, like if he saw something that scared him a lot. And this is kind of foreshadowing that this hotel is not what it seems it is, you know. At first, you know, when they get to the hotel, everything goes out fine. You know, they're kind of all doing their thing. But then as the movie progresses, we slowly see Jack. He looks like he's getting frustrated with this book. Looks like he's going a little bit insane. And Wendy's over there trying to calm him down, but Jack doesn't want to be calmed down. He wants to kind of do his own thing. So we see that it's just progressed to him being insane. He starts talking to people that aren't really even there. He goes to the gold room, which we find out early in the movie that they cleaned and they dismembered like all the booze, just so no one, you know, drinks for free over the winter break. And we also find out later on in the movie that when Jack goes in there to visit, there's a huge party going on. There's bartenders serving drinks and everything, and the bartender talks to him, and you know, this bartender, he doesn't seem right. He doesn't seem himself. This bartender seems like he is doing something to manipulate Jack into doing something or meeting someone, which we do find out that Jack does end up meeting someone when he grabs his drink and it looks like he's going to go for a dance, and a butler of some sort runs right into him, spills like a drink all over him. We then find out when Jack goes into the restroom that this guy, I don't remember his name, I'll probably put it on the screen, but this butler is actually the guy who murdered his family in the story that the manager had told Jack before he accepted the assignment. And so this guy, he's telling him, Jack's telling him, like, I know who you are. You murdered your family, you chopped him into pieces, and you shoved him in this room. This guy is saying he has no idea what he's talking about. Then he brings up the fact that Danny is telepathically talking to a guy we meet earlier in the movie, which was another guy who shines. He happens to be the head chef of the Overlook Hotel. They say very nasty words. I will not say that on camera. But they say some very nasty words, and it is just it goes from now Jack starting to lose his mind even more. As the plot picks up, we see Wendy. She's trying to figure out what's going on. Danny's been acting weird. Tony starts talking to him more. Tony eventually kind of takes over for a little bit, and they do another Tony as Danny writes on the door red rum. Another infamous scene in this movie, which if you look backwards, it's spelled murder. So, as the movie progresses, Wendy goes downstairs and she finds Jack. Well, she doesn't find Jack, but she finds Jack's typewriter. And in the typewriter are words, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Now, this is written over and over again, at least a couple hundred pages of in different styles, moved around differently and stuff. And there's a lot of typos in there and stuff because you could tell they legitimately wrote each page out, which was really cool. Stanley Kubrick really wanted to get that feel for it, get that realness to it, so he wrote each page himself out, or he had an assistant do it. All I know is on set someone went crazy doing this, and it's insane. This movie, even behind the scenes, is insane to learn about. But the movie keeps going with Wendy finding that, and then it goes down to my favorite scene where Jack starts asking Wendy a bunch of questions about Danny's health, Jack's responsibilities in his health. Then it goes down to, Wendy starting to go insane because she doesn't know what to believe anymore. So then we go on to see, they're walking up the stairs. She's got a baseball bat, and then she knocks Jack out for a little bit, locks him in the freezer. And then a little bit later, Jack is approached by the butler again. We don't see the butler, we only hear the butler, and they're having a conversation about what they did in the bathroom, which the butler was telling him, which he did admit to killing the family. So the butler was having a conversation with Jack in the freezer about, it needs to be done, you have to do it, you have to do the same thing like I did. And he's trying to tempt him, and Jack keeps saying, I'm going to do this, but the butler is, denying him, you won't do it and stuff like that. So we see the butler, he finally releases Jack out of the freezer, and the next shot of Jack that we see is he's coming down the apartment that they were assigned to stay in, because Wendy and Danny are in there. And that's another infamous scene of the movie where Jack breaks down the doors and starts going after Danny and Wendy. Other than that, though, guys, this was a really good movie. And then we go to the end where he's chasing Danny through the famous Overlook Hotel maze. It's a big maze that's made out of grass and hedges and stuff like that. But Danny and Wendy memorized how to get in and out of the maze, and Jack never went towards it or never learned the maze. So that's why at the end of the movie he ends up freezing to death and dying. And then the movie ends with the fucking it questions me every time I watch the movie. You see Jack's he's dead. He's in the snow. He's frozen to death. Then the camera comes back into the hotel. There's nobody in the hotel, but the camera starts panning into something, and as you see it get closer and closer, it pans into a picture. Now, it pans into multiple pictures at first, but then it starts going down, 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 down. And as it makes its way to the very bottom, we see a picture of a group. And in the front of this group is Jack. Now, we don't know for sure if it's Jack, but then the camera pans down again even more. It says Overlook Hotel, July 4th, ball, 1923. Now, I'm assuming the movie is supposed to be taking place in the 1980s, late 70s, because the movie did come out in 1980, so it's going to be around that time, which for them was, like, you know, modern time, you know, present time. But, you know, Stanley Kubrick never came out and said why he added that to the movie. Now, that leaves fans for years been wondering, was Jack dead this entire time? Which is going to bring us to our next topic, fan theories. Now, I got a couple fan theories, and, you know, I've been watching a lot of videos on this movie, and honestly, I just kind of, towards the end, want to get to the bottom of what's going on. The first fan theory I have here is, Jack's been dead the entire time, and his spirit haunts the Overlook Hotel, driving him to do the same thing over and over with the new family. Now, I'm assuming that Jack is going to possess a body, or just kind of have his own body, and I'm assuming that his spirit can leave the Overlook Hotel to go find a new person, when in the end, this spirit, I think, is kind of brainwashed differently every time, where he doesn't remember anything about the last family that he killed. But he goes out and finds a new family, and he is eventually driven back to the Overlook Hotel to kill him, to try to kill him like he did with, like he tried to do with Danny and Wendy. My theory, or you know, the theories I've been watching and stuff, and I've been kind of agreeing with, was what if Jack was dead the entire time, and that's why we're seeing him in the 1923 ball? What if he's been one of the caretakers all along, and that's just how it's always been? I just want to know if, you know, what, you know, has Jack always just been there? His spirit, maybe one of the spirits that haunts the Overlook Hotel, and he's always driven back. Now another fan theory I have about this movie is, up until the point where, you know, Jack, you start seeing him slowly ticking and going crazy, I feel that from the point where he starts going crazy all the way to the end of the movie, that was part of Jack's novel. Now, in this movie, we do see him write a novel before he writes the all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And when he writes that, he's already gone crazy. So, I feel that maybe he was writing a book that was inspired by the Brady murders, but he just inserted himself and his family in it. And so what we're seeing from Jack going crazy and on till his death is all in Jack's book. And the twist ending that we see at the end of Jack in the 1923 photo was Jack's ending to the book. And I feel that, you know, this is just kind of Jack's novel. So it makes perfect sense when you put it that way. Because, you know, Jack was trying to write a story, and early on in the movie he is looking through murder cases that happened at the Overlook Hotel. So he probably got inspiration from that and wrote the book from there. Now, this theory is not for sure, but that's just one theory that I've gone along with the entire time. I just feel that theory, in my opinion, makes the most perfect sense. In the comments below, if you guys disagree and you guys have other fan theories or ways that theory can't be correct, just let me know, because I'm always interested in learning new stuff about this movie, or just learning stuff that you guys know that I don't know or something, you know? And lastly, and this is the least, my least favorite fan theory, but it's still up there because it makes perfect sense. Jack's not real, and Wendy and Danny are going crazy. Now, early on in the movie, we do see Danny has suffered from child abuse, and that was from Jack. So I have a feeling that maybe all of this is just in their heads. Maybe they're going through an abused stepdad for Danny, and an abusive and very foul-mouthed ex-husband from Wendy, and I have a feeling that all this is just in their head and they're going crazy. When you start putting it together of all the stuff that goes on in this movie and everything, it starts to sort of make sense a little bit of Wendy and Danny going crazy. I mean, Danny can shine. Danny starts to see stuff. Wendy starts to see stuff. Wendy starts flipping her shit later on in the movie. So, I mean, it all kind of makes sense when you put it together. And now we're going to go to the last section of the video, which is unanswered questions. Now, this movie leaves you with a lot of unanswered questions, but I wrote down 3 that left me with the most unanswered questions, you know, out of all of them. Back to the fan theory. Was it just all Jack's novel that we were watching this entire time? I just want to know. I mean, Was it Jack's novel? This was his peace and quiet time, and he wrote this novel, and now we're just watching it play out. Is this Jack's novel? Because he was very secretive about it towards Wendy and stuff, so maybe we're the only ones that saw it and stuff. So was this Jack novel his entire time? And then this one I didn't bring up at all in the video, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. Was Jack secretly gay? Now, when I say was Jack secretly gay, early on in the movie when the family first arrives at the Overlook Hotel, all their stuff is in the lobby, and Jack's waiting in the lobby for the manager, we do see Jack reading something. Now, Jack is reading what is Playgirl magazine. Now, Playgirl is pretty much gay porn, and we see him reading it. Now, I have watched a lot of videos on this one, and maybe he was secretly gay, but there's really no evidence to really back that up. The only evidence I know that would maybe back that up is the scene where the bear is giving the blowjob, and you don't really see it happen, but you see the bear come up and the guy look over. My theory is maybe Jack imagines himself in the bear costume. I don't know, but I just have a feeling because he was reading the Playgirl magazine that maybe Jack was secretly gay, unless Stanley Kubrick didn't know it was a Playgirl instead of a Playboy, you know, and stuff. So, yeah, was Jack secretly gay all this time? And lastly, what is the photo of Jack in the Overlook Hotel in 1923? That's the biggest unanswered question in this movie. It just ends like that, and you're left to decide what happened. What's going on? Is Jack dead this entire time? Was everybody just going crazy? We don't know. It's one of the biggest unanswered questions in probably film history, and I don't know if Stanley Kubrick has answered this question yet. Maybe only he knows. Maybe he just did that to fuck with our minds, you know? I mean, a lot of directors do that shit, but I don't know, guys. So let me know in the comments what you think about The Shining. If you have never seen The Shining, then go watch this movie. I guarantee you this is one of the best horror movies ever made. Of course, like every movie, it starts off slow, but it slowly builds up into a really good movie. But I highly suggest you guys go see it. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Thanks for watching Horror Movie Talk. Be sure to check out the next Horror Movie Talk. We're going to be talking about the new Jigsaw movie. That will be next week on the channel. And as far as this week, we have Horror Movie Talk with The Shining and the history of Michael Myers in time for Halloween. Thanks a lot, guys, and I will see you in the next video.